So once upon a time, there was this man named Alexander the Great, and he conquered here and here and here and here and here. But before we get to him, we have to go over his father, Philip II, the king of Macedonia. Sparta and Athens had gotten into a big fight, so Philip, who is the king of Macedonia, was like,
"Dude, this would be the perfect time to take over."
So he takes over all of southern Greece. Now, earlier, Philip had married a princess named Olympia, who was not Macedonian. I repeat, not Macedonian, and fathered Alexander. Then Philip called up his man Aristotle and was like,
"Hey, bruh, can you tutor my teenage kid?"
And Aristotle was like,
"I did just, invent Western philosophy, but yeah, sure, whatever."
So Alexander grew up, and when he was 16, his father was like,
"Hey son, I'm gonna go take over the Thracians. Take care of the kingdom while I'm gone."
So Philip goes over and invades Thrace, and Alexander's like,
"Okay, Dad, I got this."
But then the Thracians are like, sneak attack and go and invade Macedonia.
Charge!
But then Alexander's like,
"Excuse me?"
and totally kicks their butts. Then Philip comes back and he's like, Hey son, nice job on defending our kingdom. I don't love your mother anymore, so I'm gonna marry this woman. Now this lady's name was Cleopatra, and she was full Macedonian. So then Cleopatra's uncle was like,
Wow, thank God. Now Philip can father a legitimate heir, unlike this bastard child.
Alexander threw his cup at the man, which made Philip mad, so he tried to stab Alexander, but fell on his face. Then Alexander was like, for 5 minutes. So Philip kicked him out of Macedonia. But then he was allowed back, so he was like, yeah. But Alexander is still kind of mad about the whole banishment thing, and he also doesn't want Philip to make a new heir, so he hires this guy to kill him. So on Philip's wedding day, to his new bride Cleopatra, the guy assassinates him. But then Alexander's friend comes along and kills the assassin, so he'll keep his mouth shut. Now that Philip's dead, all the nations he conquered start rebelling, mainly Greece. So Alexander basically had to run around like a chicken with its head cut off to subdue all these rebelling kingdoms. Now that all the rebellions have been quelled, Alexander invades the Asia Minor and throws his spear into the ground, declaring he will rule all of Asia. Next, Alexander marches over to Gordium to untie the Gordian knot, but cheats and slices it with his sword instead. Then Alexander heads over to Egypt, where the Egyptians are like, hey, come over and invade us, because they are tired of Persian rule. Now that Alexander is the ruler of Egypt, he wants to become the son of Ra, aka God. So he makes a pilgrimage all across Egypt and is like, hey, can I be Ra's son? And Ra's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And Alexander's like, yay! He continues to travel across Asia until he gets to Sodian, where he meets a princess and is like, oh my god, you're perfect, marry me. And she's like, well, you did just invade my kingdom, but yeah, sure, whatever. Then he invades Punjab, where his horse gets killed, and he's like, my horsey, wah! Finally, he travels back to Susa, where he gets a super high fever and can't talk. His soldiers all walk by him right before he dies. Now that he's dead, we can get to the Hellenistic period. Because Alexander couldn't talk when he was dying, he never named an heir, so his generals divided up all the land. This was not good because all of the generals kept fighting over the land. However, all these battles led to an advancement in weaponry. But what the Hellenistic period was really known for was its advancements in science and math. Euclid basically invented geometry, Archimedes invented cool stuff, and Aristophanes calculated the circumference of the Earth. Bonus info, back then it was common knowledge the Earth was round. Go figure. The Hellenistic period spread Mediterranean culture, mainly Greek, across the Western Hemisphere. One of the most influential aspects of the culture was philosophy, which is why much of Western philosophy today is Greek. The Hellenistic period ended with the rise of the Roman Empire, but it left its impact on our world.